You know that friend who always keeps popping back up? And you know that other friend you haven't seen in years? Y'all were cool, no issues, no smoke, but they've been messing their own life up for what feels like 25,000 years. Meanwhile, you've been minding your business, handling yours, and they never thought to check on you at all. All that time, they were outside, living life, doing whatever they were doing, going through their own chaos. Then, out of nowhere, they decide, let me call him and see what he's doing because I care. And listen, they really don't. They come back around fishing, trying to see if there's anything they can pull, anything they can benefit from. And when there's nothing to grab, no fish on the line, that's when the hate kicks in. Now suddenly you're the problem. Now you're the reason for all their misery and despair, which is really just weakness, let's be real, right? And this is exactly the kind of energy we're seeing play out here. You see what weak-minded dudes do. They start going at everybody else and acting like nobody was there for them when things fell apart. There's always an excuse waiting. But let's really get into this because this situation low-key mirrors the whole Dame Dash and Jim Jones dynamic. It really does reflect that same pattern. There's a lot of movement here that went completely left, and I think y'all need to hear this part. Now, with everything I've invested and paid attention to up to this point, Dame Dash had no choice but to step out and address Jim Jones' rhetoric, especially when it comes to this type of nonsense we were just breaking down, petty people reaching back from the past. Now, Jim Jones went on a podcast, which brings us right to where we are right now.
Dame's impact on the Dipset was nothing.
What his impact was in Harlem?
Dame impact in Harlem was nothing. Not to say it like
hear
that. Dame came up under hustlers. That impact was it. He was a little dude when it came to hustling in Harlem. He wasn't not no Rich Porter, none of that type of. He wanted to hustle. He wanted to hustle for niggas like Rich Porter and shit like that. Dame from the East Side. When the niggas on the East Side is different from the niggas from the West Side. Now for the East Side, Dame was a big deal to us because we were little and he was coming from the West Side, little car, jewelry, and all that. So when you're young, he's looking like Rich Porter, but in reality, you know, he was like this the nigga, go to the store, nigga, take a couple grams, get out of here. Not to take nothing away from him. You heard?
But with him bringing Dip in, with him bringing Dip in to the Rockefeller.
You're talking about two different things. You're talking about the streets and you're talking about the music and shit like that.
I was talking about the
I'm not
streets.
saying he wasn't a hustler in the streets.
Right.
You heard? But he wasn't the big dog, nigga. He wasn't that nigga. He just had a couple packs like everybody else in Harlem. You heard? His name doesn't ring bells for being the hustlers in Harlem. He made a movie called Paid in Full. He wasn't in the movie.
Right.
His character was nowhere in that movie. So I don't want people to get up here and be like, yo, he's trying to do something. No,
So your man
nigga.
with a something.
He was just an actor.
Yeah,
in
a cult. Yeah, you know,
the movie's about Rich Porter and
I
all
see what
those
you're
guys.
saying. Yeah.
Dame was not a character in that movie.
Right,
He's not a
right.
Rich
Nah,
Porter.
for
They
sure.
didn't change
No.
Dame name to Kane or Kane. They changed Rich name to Mitch.
Right.
You heard? Like, he wasn't one of those figures. He was a hustler growing up adoring those type of figures.
Right.
You understand what I'm trying to
get
say?
it.
No, for sure.
You
Yeah.
did? So that's why he grew up putting on for Harlem, because he was outside during the golden era trying to make his way like all the other big dogs in Harlem. He was there firsthand, hustling, putting on. Yeah, he had cars. Yeah, they had girls. Yeah, but
That was no different.
he made his making the music and was able to paint the picture that was going on in Harlem.
See,
about how niggas
that's
was
crazy,
hustling and shit
bro.
like that. And they made their money.
Aaron.
They did they numbers. But in that era,
Right.
you heard?
That's
By the
crazy.
time it got to the Jay-Z thing, that didn't even count. They were doing music. You heard?
Right.
You heard what he said. He basically went, but he wasn't the big dog. He wasn't that guy, just had a couple packs like everybody else in Harlem. He said Dame's name didn't ring a bell as one of the legendary hustlers in Harlem. Then he brings up Paid in Full, saying Dame wasn't even in the movie. His character wasn't anywhere in that film. So he's like, I don't want people jumping out the window acting like he was this or that. Nah, he framed him as just an actor. Yeah, in the culture, yeah. You know, the movie was about Rich Porter and those guys. Dame wasn't a character in that story. He wasn't Rich Porter. They didn't change Dame's name to Kane or anything like that. They changed Rich's name to Mitch, you heard? So he's saying Dame wasn't one of those figures. He was a hustler who grew up admiring those figures. Right, you see what he's trying to say? Yeah, I get it. You dig? That's why he says Dame grew up putting on for Harlem, because he was outside during the golden era, trying to make his way just like all the other big dogs. He was there firsthand, hustling, repping. Yeah, he had cars. Yeah, there were girls. But that part, that wasn't different from anybody else. He transitioned into music and was able to paint the picture of what was going on in Harlem, how dudes were hustling, how they moved, how they got money and ran numbers in that era. You heard? By the time it got to the JJ chapter, he's saying that didn't even count anymore, because now it was about music, right? So now you've got Jim Jones talking about what Dame wasn't, what he was, and basically discrediting him. But at the same time, Jim admits they were young back then. So hold up, you were young when Dame Dash was already moving around? That's when it hit people like, yo, this is crazy. That alone shocked a lot of folks. Like, wait, Dame Dash was never a factor in Harlem? The fact that Jim chose to go down that road was alarming to me. And honestly, it was eye-opening, because now the real question becomes, what did Dame Dash do to you? What made you want to strip his legacy down like that? Calling that man a worker, disrespecting him, when he helped put you in a position to even be seen. It just looked nasty. Straight up, it looked pathetic. So Dame responded in true Dame Dash fashion, because the statement itself was ridiculous, and seeing how it played out opened a lot of eyes and sparked a bigger conversation. Like, Jim Jones, why are you even saying this? What's your point? Because the point isn't landing. It doesn't make sense. So with that said, I'll let you hear Dame speak for himself.
So I'll let you listen to Dame.
Dame, there was an interview that Jim Jones did, and he said that you're not a boss, you're a worker. Mm-hmm. What do you have to say about that?
You know, someone called me about that, and I laughed because it's ridiculous, but I felt like Jim must have been giving me an alley-oop to front on him. So I will.
Okay, you're invited, go ahead.
Well, here's the thing. When I was 15-year-old, and I would guess their perspective, because he was a young man, mm-hmm. I was big time to him, because I was 15-year-old and I was doing things that most 15-year-olds weren't doing. And the people that he's rapping about in a lot of his records, like Rich Porter and Lou Sims, these are people I actually used to hustle with. Now, at 15, I'm not gonna say I was a legend at hustling. I wasn't, I was 15. But the people that we were looking up to, by the time I got to their age, I definitely made more money than them, and I was more impactful as it relates to culture, because it wasn't being known for selling drugs. I was never known for selling drugs. But what you won't do, you could ask Lou Sims if he ever sent me to the store, or ask anybody that you know that was in that world that ever sent me to the store. See, I never hustled with Jim, and I don't think he ever bought a car till it was with Rap Money. It was never a street thing. I knew him as Jomo, and it's not a bad thing. It was his name, and he was like an 8-year-old, like a younger kid running around with a clip-on tie, and he lived in 1199 at Dave's house, because I guess they're, whatever it was, he lived. So I never really knew him as, like, growing up. He was always a little kid.
Yeah.
But Fredo, Cameron brought him around, and I was like, why are you with Jomo? And he was like, well, and he admitted this, well, he has a crib we go to, we just using him, blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah, all right, it's Jomo. But he's done what he's had to do. But, you know, he wasn't there to say that. But if he can say that, like Dookie, I used to hustle with Dookie. He was my lieutenant.
Not Dookie. Dookie. Oh, listen, I thought he was calling the man Dookie.
Yeah, you were wrong. Pause. Duke the God is, we call him Dookie, Paul.
Okay.
But Duke the God is with the Dipset. I used to hustle with him.
Okay.
You could ask him if he ever seen someone send me to the store, but I was always known in the position as somewhat of a boss. And all I did was pass the plug to them. They were like, they always looked up to me at that time, but I was never big time as a drug dealer, but I did have a crew called The Best Out, and we were the youngest crew, and we were legendary. We was all getting money, but again, I'm pretty impressed with who I am and who I was and the things I did, and the fact that the people rap about are the people that I actually hustle with and actually was able to go another direction.
I'm just about the best out. Anybody realer than me, they in a mess or with their chests out.
You know what I'm saying? So I feel like for him, he knows the algorithm.
Yeah.
And you know, when you say Dame Dash, you go viral. And
I was gonna ask you if
I
that, do you
appreciate
think that
Jim
was
saying
more
that
a reason
so,
for it?
that he could, so that I could actually have a reason to talk about who I was and tell people to look under the hood. But if you know a 15, 16-year-old, and another thing is because I used to hang out uptown, so people from downtown, I'm from 1199, they weren't usually allowed to go uptown and hustle. And I was on one of the wildest blocks on the, you know, at the time in Harlem. So I got to make it out of a real circumstance. I didn't wait to get the rap to start to get money. I didn't wait to get the rap to start being tough. None of those things. And, you know, you can look under the hood. So I appreciate him bringing it up.
So
and
was
you can, to the extent that I've made my Paid in Full, the OG stories, it's about my friends. The people, like, again, y'all making records about Rich, but he really did hit us with work. I was there. If you wasn't there, it's hard to talk about it. To be obsessed and infatuated in such a way that you think to be a person is to go to jail, get killed, and be famous for it for a very short run, that's not what I wanted to be known for. But you could find somebody that sent me to the store. I'd like to know.
For the people who
they could
don't
write
know,
a book then. Like
for the people who don't know, what is sent to the store? He was a runner.
You're
a do boy.
So let me bring up something. My man Bootsy brought up something because everyone when they caught work, they went to the Hill.
Okay.
And I told this story about how, you know, I was with Cam and Big L and the police.
A do boy
Let me
girl?
finish. Let me understand later. So
You're not both like what?
Okay, so us from normal
finish.
places.
I'm not on my own. The audience may understand, but used to go to the Hill. Used to go to the Hill to cop work from the Dominican, right? And I told this story about, you know, Cameron. I was bringing some bricks to the Dominicans, or going there, and you know, the police pulled us over. He started crying and shit, talking about he gonna put himself in PC, whatever. But Bootsy was like, you know, you don't stop.
She's not understanding the
I don't know
Understand
this
later. Understand later.
I
So
understand
Bootsy
now. Why?
said something like, yo, you don't go to the Hill to bring bricks, you pick them up. And I'm like, nah, what they didn't know is we at some times was hitting the Dominicans. No one knew what we were doing. You understand what I'm saying? So what we were doing and when we started to do things at a certain scale, no one really knew. You understand?
That actually made a lot of sense. And first off, salute to everybody who donated on Cash App, Carino. I appreciate y'all heavy. Everybody who super chatted, thank you for the love and the support as this channel keeps growing. We are really out here trying to cut through the nonsense that keeps circling. Now, when people hear those comments, right, listen to this. I'm looking at the relevance and the lesson Dame was really trying to give Jimmy, and it was some grown man talk. It's like, bro, you were a kid. He said I was 15. At 15, he was already doing what he had to do to take care of himself as a man. And let that sink in. He was 15. That's the whole point he's making to Jimmy. Like, Jimmy, I've been independent since I was 15. Meanwhile, you were the younger kid under me looking up to us. And like he said, I gave you guys the plug. Those dudes were his friends, the same ones he made the movie about. A lot of them aren't even here anymore. But Jimmy did this strictly for attention. So Dame basically said, oh, you want attention now? Cool, I'll expose you. He's saying you were never really that guy until you started rapping and got some money. Then all of a sudden you got tough. There are no real tough street stories about you, no real grind tales. He's saying you were always getting beaten up. It wasn't until you rapped that you even got involved in anything serious. Other than that, you were just the local little pusher with your grandma's crib in the hood, and that was it. So imagine hearing someone talk like this about you. If you're Dame Dash, you're probably looking at Jimmy like, who are you really? And I think sometimes things get lost in translation. People start thinking they're bigger than they actually are. And Jimmy's being put in this position because it feels like someone put a battery in his back. Just like Dame said, it's like somebody wants Nori to go at Dame. Everybody suddenly wants to smoke with Dame. So here comes Jimmy. Now he's mad at Dame because of who Jay-Z told him to align with. He was aligned with 50. He was aligned with French Montana. Everybody Dame had an issue with, Jimmy suddenly picked up their issues. And the wild part is, he didn't even have a real problem with Dame to begin with. But when you do suckerish things, don't expect mercy, especially when you're the one moving like that. So yeah, I'm with Dame on this one. Jimmy's just talking. You can't discredit people who actually put the work in. So with that said, I'm out. I'll see y'all on the Patreon. Love, peace, and hair grease.